Hey guys, I think I've got this figured out. So I wanted to jump on here quick to talk about protein shakes and drinks quick when you're post-op and those first few weeks. I apologize if it's loud here. I'm sitting next to a busy road in our rental house and the neighbor's chickens are squawking too. So if you hear anything, I apologize, but I could get away from the family and wanted to jump on here and do this. So anyways, so 2 weeks post-op, those first, I should say 2 to 4 weeks really, a lot of times you've tried protein powders before surgery and they just don't taste good afterwards. You're not alone. There are a lot of people that have these food aversions. We're not exactly sure why they happen, why those taste buds change. It's probably sort of like a hormonal chemical response after surgery, and after those gut hormones have been altered from the actual incisions and whatnot, cutting away. So anyways, what I have learned from doing this for 15 years is when you have those aversions to the protein powders, the supplements, all this kind of manufactured stuff, the best thing you can try to do is to go to real food as much as you can. So for example, with a protein drink, so let's say your powders aren't working well, you could try to make your own protein drink, or kind of like a protein smoothie, and using sort of real whole foods. I really like to start with cottage cheese or a whole fat plain Greek yogurt. Now, if you have any dairy allergies, or some people have a dairy or like a lactose intolerance before surgery, sometimes people develop that after surgery. We'll talk about that in a second, but for those of you that don't, that dairy protein is a good one to start with because it is a complete protein and it makes kind of just a good base, a good foundation. So I tend to start with one of those. The reason for the cottage cheese, a lot of people are immediately turned off when I say that. Even if you didn't like cottage cheese before surgery, just try a little bit. Stick with me here. So if you can use that as the foundation, and when you blend it, you won't get those curdles as much, as long as you have a good high-powered blender. And then add, fresh fruit or frozen fruit is really good. I recommend not doing like a seedy fruit. So I would stick away from a lot of like raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, blueberries even. Try to stick with more of a kind of like a pulpy fruit, if that makes sense. So like bananas work really well. Frozen mango works really well. Peaches, nectarines, those kinds of fruits tend to blend really well and make a nice smooth consistency. So try to stick with more of that realm. And then you can either add a protein powder if you have one at home. I really recommend a good unflavored protein powder and or a vanilla because it tends to blend in a little bit. The taste is a little more milder than like a chocolate or a kind of tropical whatever. So those two. And then instead of feeling like you need to use a whole scoop, which a lot of people kind of get trapped by that mentality, just use a couple teaspoons and try it initially with that. If you tolerate the couple teaspoons, maybe try to add 3 teaspoons the next time. And then if you're like, I don't want to do any protein powders whatsoever, try a dry powdered milk, like a non-fat dry powdered milk. That can add a little bit more protein to it. Not a ton, but every little gram is better than nothing. Or you could even add a creamy nut butter of some kind. Almond butter, peanut butter, cashew butter, these all work really well in smoothies as well. And then this is where I also like to really try to bring in as much good flavor as you can without being too overpowering. So like a teaspoon of vanilla extract, or even a half a teaspoon. It kind of depends on how much of a smoothie you're making. Start with a little bit, and then you can always add more. It's nice. And then also, depending on kind of what flavors maybe sound good to you, pull out your spices like cinnamon, nutmeg can be really nice, and allspice, maybe a little bit of like fresh grated ginger. Especially if you do have like a little bit of an upset stomach or some nausea, sometimes that fresh ginger can really help with that as well. Oh good, I've got a few of you watching. I just posted this randomly, so I'm glad I've caught some of you. If you have any questions, just type them in as I'm going. So back to smoothies. So those are kind of just some options. There are a bajillion different kinds of smoothie recipes online. Honestly, what I do is I just start with a couple scoops of yogurt. If I don't have frozen fruit, I'll add some ice to it. and then the fresh fruit, or a lot of times, like I said, I just like to use frozen fruit if I have it. If I have fruit at home that's getting a little too ripe, I'll peel it, cut it, throw it in a plastic container, put it in the freezer, and then I'll save it to use as a smoothie before a smoothie later. And then you can add like a splash of water if you need to. You could do a splash of milk or like an alternative milk, soy, almond, coconut, whatever you want. Sorry guys, my computer's digging too. Or you could do like a diet or a light juice. A quarter cup is usually a good place to start. If you need a little bit more, you can always add a little bit more. And then if you're having more of the dairy intolerance, you can start with a good soy milk. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the taste of soy milk. However, if you're having a significant intolerance to the protein powders and you have, dairy issues or lactose intolerance, try the soy. This is the closest thing to a, milk-based protein. It's a whole protein that we have. Some oat milks are decent with the protein, but they're not going to be as high as the soy. So try the soy first. Buy a small container if you can, and then basically do the same thing. If you get like a soy yogurt, you can add that in. The taste is a little bit different, but again, just try to stay as open as you can. What you tolerated or liked before surgery might be a little bit different after. So you just have to be as open-minded during this process as you can, and just try slightly different things. Again, if you have a protein powder at home, add a little bit. You don't have to do a whole scoop. What I tend to suggest is trying to do, like I said, just half of a scoop or a couple teaspoons at a time, and kind of go from there. So I hope that helps. I'll stay on here another minute or so, see if anybody has questions. I know I didn't announce this, but this is just kind of the easiest way sometimes for me to jump on here quick and do these. So doesn't look like I have any questions from anybody, so I'm gonna let you go. But that's just a quick synopsis of how to get some of those grams of protein in early post-op when you're really struggling with all those protein powders and protein drinks that you probably invested a lot of money in. So hang tight, keep with them. Maybe put them on the shelves for a few weeks and go back to them, and they might be better later. All right, thanks.